everyone, it's Justine the Twilight Stamper, and today I'm here bringing you another watercolor card and a collaboration. So I'm collaborating today with Crafty Paws Christina. We've done a video before. I'll link to that video right here in the corner. And today we created a watercolor card, and that was the theme today, and I'm doing a watercolor background. Here over in the corner you'll see a button where you could subscribe to Christina's channel, and at the end of my video I'll link to her channel so you can see what she created today. I'm also doing a giveaway sometime in this video, so you have to watch the whole video to see what you have to do to win. Alright, so to get started I taped down a piece of Tim Holtz watercolor distress paper. I'm going to be using milled lavender, picked raspberry, and tattered rose to create this background. So I'm just putting some of these inks onto my craft mat, and I'm going to spray them with a little bit of water to get them really into watercolor paints. I'm using my mini mister. It's my favorite way to add just a little bit of water, and it's really easy to control. To get started, I am going to saturate my paper with water using a large watercolor brush. I used this large watercolor brush actually to do the entire card because I didn't have any fine details. You can see I got a little bit of a brush or a bristle onto my cardstock that I wasn't wanting to go away. And then I just added some water and went in with the picked raspberry to begin with on the bottom of the card, followed by the milled lavender, and then lastly into the tattered rose. I just did a streak from left to right and nothing too exciting. And then I just went in and blended the two colors together. Next, I just laid over a stencil and grabbed my brush, which was also kind of dirty, but it created a great look, and tried to go over with some more color to add some interest into the watercolor. You could just leave the stencil on here and then it would create a circled impression, but because this stencil here has one of the lines in the rectangular box, I didn't do that. But I think the messy sort of watercolor look that it created and the splash of the picked raspberry on top of the tattered rose made it look great. Next, I'm going to take a piece of vellum. For the final result of the card, I ended up cutting down my vellum quite a bit. I'm using this background stamp from the Tall Stamps, and I am going to be inking that up with Versamark ink. I'm trying my best not to get any fingerprints onto my vellum because my embossing powder is going to stick to it if I do that. I'm just going to do about a 2-inch area onto the stamp where the solid stamps meet the lined stamps. I think that's where it's the prettiest and you get a really great look of both solid and lined stamps. So again, trying my best not to touch this vellum too much, I grabbed my tweezers and laid it on top of the ink and just used my finger to push down. If you don't want to get your fingers sticky, just put a piece of computer paper on top of the stamp set and then push down so that you get a nice even impression. With my fingers, I had a lot more control than using just the stamp on top of the vellum so that I can really see what it stamped and if there were any areas that were missing. I grabbed my tweezers once again and took the background off of the stamp. Now I'm going to add my white embossing powder. I'm using Super Embossing Powder from Ranger in white, and this is really great because it gets a lot of the detail of the stamp on using the embossing powder, more so than using just a standard embossing powder. Okay, so I'm just adding my embossing powder as carefully as I can. You can see I always end up getting outside the Tupperware container. I think I need like a gigantic crate of embossing powder in order to not spill it somewhere. It's kind of my thing. Not very good at keeping it clean. So I'm just going to dump the rest of the embossing powder off and give it a tap using the back of my finger to get any excess embossing powder that shouldn't be sticking to it off. I'm just going to put you in fast mode here while I heat emboss this. I always let my heat embosser run about 30 seconds before using it so that it doesn't warp the vellum too much. I'm going to be die cutting the Your Amazing die cut from Simon Says stamp on white paper for my sentiment. Now it's time to talk about the giveaway. I'm giving away a gourmet rubber stamp stencil called Floral Block. All you have to do here is leave a comment on my YouTube channel as well as Crafty Paws, who I'm collaborating with today. I'll link to her video at the end of the video as well as in the description. And just let us know what your favorite technique is when you're making cards. It's that simple. And we'll pick a winner and announce that on Sunday next week. Now we'll go back to the video here. I'm going to put everything together now, my background, my embossing flowers, and my sentiment. So I'm using Tombow monoliquid adhesive, and I'm using quite a bit of adhesive because my cardstock is slightly warped, and I want to make it sure that it goes really nicely onto my card base. So I'm just holding that down there with my hands. To attach the vellum piece, I added some Tombow monoliquid adhesive on the solid flowers, and then I ended up using my tape runner to secure it. I think I did that off camera though, but I wasn't able to see the tape runner because I have like a tape runner that's dotted instead of a solid line, so you ended up not seeing it through the vellum. Next, I'm just adding the You're Amazing using some Tombow monoliquid adhesive. I like to have a scrap paper onto the side here where I can sort of dab my sentiment on to get any blops of glue off of it, if that makes sense. The hardest part about doing this is definitely getting the dotted I's and the apostrophe. I did it with glue. If you have a Xyron machine, that would work as well for putting the sentiment down and getting that all nice and sticky. That's probably my preferred way of doing it, but I left my Xyron machine when I moved back to Canada, so I don't have it here. So you get to watch me struggle in fast mode on putting the apostrophe and the dot on the I. Lastly, I just had to add my card base, so I'm using Simon's Stamp cardstock, and I am using my bone folder to make a nice crease. If you're interested in any of the supplies you see in this video, they're all linked below in the description directly to the stores, as well as on my blog, which is also in the description. Here you can head over to Crafty Paw's video and check out what she made using the watercolor technique. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Don't forget to enter the giveaway by leaving the comment below, subscribe, and thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching.